Recording in progress. Well, yeah. Things are good. It's temperatures are falling, and it's getting into the normal average temperature for the season, and it's just with that comes the Christmas atmosphere here. In this area, because the old school Christmas footage you typically see from all these. When Christmas is romanticized, that's usually it comes from Central European history of old castles in the snow, and old alpine landscapes in the snow, and all of these things. So once temperatures here drop, I tend to get into that specific mood, and we're actually going to decorate our house this coming weekend.
Very good.
Yeah, we usually
the Glühwein comes out.
Yeah, that's true. It's sort of an Advent tradition, and I know it's not the first Advent this coming weekend, but we've sort of gotten into the habit of doing it the week before the first Advent, and
first Advent is that the 1st of December? Is that?
Yeah, it's around the 1st of December. It's the fourth Advent is usually the last Sunday before Christmas. And sometimes Christmas falls on fourth Advent. The 24th is, in Europe, the 24th is the big day. We don't really celebrate. Oh, well, the English do. They celebrate the 25th. But to us, it's the 24th in the evening.
Yeah, I always found that strange.
Yeah.
Because in Australia, we celebrate it on the 25th as well. And I've been to Europe a few times in Christmas, obviously. And I've celebrated Christmas in Poland a couple of times. And they have a big dinner on the 24th as well. And then, so that was a little bit strange for Australians, because obviously we follow heritage from the British, I guess. Cause
you do.
Us and colonized us. And Christmas Day is the 25th.
I can see advantages from both traditions, actually, because, it is... We're used to the 24th, but when Anton was very little, it was actually, there was one Christmas we spent in London with Alex's family, and she's been living there for like 25, 30 years. So she's kind of with her family. Obviously, they celebrate on the 25th, and that has advantages too, because the thing is, with small kids, we don't open presents until in the evening. On the 24th, so it's a long day for kids, and if they're just used,
definitely,
25th, okay, we start right away in the morning with the presents.
Yep, first thing.
That's obviously they have a hard time fall asleep in the evening before, and we'll get up early. But that excitement. It's really a long day. I can remember when I was a kid, in Denmark, it was the same thing. 24th in the evening, and it was just what a long day.
I hear you. Okay. So in Australia, traditionally we put the Christmas tree up on the 1st of December. That's what most people do here, anyway. But Christmas Day obviously is Christmas Day. But hey, if you can celebrate on the 24th and the 25th, then we have a public holiday on the 26th as well in Australia for what we call Boxing Day, I think, which is another British tradition, and that went back to, I actually looked this up once, and it went back to the old days when they had staff in their manor houses and things like that, and what they would do is they would box up all the leftover they would box up all the leftover Christmas food and give it to the staff in a box. So they used to call it, so it was Boxing Day, and that's celebrated in England. I don't know if England have a public holiday for it. I guess they may.
I think they do.
In Australia, it's probably most well known in Australia because it's there's a famous cricket match that starts every Boxing Day in Melbourne called the Boxing Day Test, which is Boxing Day Cricket Test, which is probably the most attended cricket match in the world. They generally have 100,000 people there on Boxing Day turn out, and they watch the cricket. This year, Australia's playing India, but it could be England or it could be the West Indies some years. West Indies is a going off target here, is not even actually a country. It's made up of about 4 or 5 countries in the Caribbean, and they just called the West Indies. So I don't really know how that happened, but
it's usually a Commonwealth nations, isn't it?
Cricket's common sport, most definitely. So India, Pakistan, South Africa, Australia, England, New Zealand, that sort of troop. Even though they did play the Cricket World Cup in United States this year, and the United States have now got a cricket league. So cricket's world governing body, I'm sure, would be happy about that, because there's a big untapped audience there, I guess, for them.
Yeah. Well, and the US people, they're used to these slow games, American football is also very slow to me.
And baseball.
Yeah.
But then again, being Australian too, like, I can't dig the fact that, soccer or football, you can have a 0-0 draw. There needs to be a winner in every game. Like, if you're going to play for 90 minutes and you're going to pay all that money to go and see it, someone needs to win. Like, there needs to be a penalty shootout at the end or something like that, but there needs to be a winner.
Yeah. So let's dive in. Hello to the listeners. As usual, Mark and I just start chatting right away. But you are listening to Southern Summers and Northern Winters, and this is our 4th episode. Time flies, Mark.
Does time fly, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's okay. I look forward to our time every Monday night having a chat.
Yeah, it's becoming a very cozy and cherished habit here to start the week off. I really enjoy these two, and we're hoping to attract more and more listeners. Mark, I saw, statistics are starting to slowly sort of come in. We are having listeners on.
As long as you tell me someone's listening, that's the main thing.
It is, and there are people listening in. Still not many, but come on, it's the early days. But you have
that's just a byproduct, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're really. And to the listeners, hats off to Mark for doing all this, because he's really doing a lot in terms of social media. And I saw you've opened a YouTube channel for us this week.
I have. There's about 7 or 8 videos up there as of today. I went a bit crazy and uploaded as much as YouTube would let me, until they said, you need to stop for the next 24 hours.
Yeah,
before I can upload any more. But yeah, so just enough tidbits, hopefully, that people might see it and then go, hey, I might click a link and come and listen to the podcast. So,
it's small appetizers, and then they're well made. So it's God, we're coming with all these golden sentences, Mark. I hadn't really noticed. We just chat away, and you seem to find the little seeds there, here and there, so it's nice.
Let's see it. Hopefully I'm hitting the sweet spot for our conversations. But I must admit, the computer software does help me a little bit there. I've got a program, like I said, that I can run our podcast through, and it picks out some nice little juicy bits that make it easier to produce that way. And, hopefully that engages the audience, if it helps us pick out some nice topics of conversation that we were talking about that might include the audience a little bit more.
Yeah. The sound is a little bit on and off with you, Mark. I don't want to jinx it, but it could also be the connection today. I don't know. I can hear you all the time, but it's just sometimes it's very, very, very low, and then it's
microphone around the right way. I think it is.
Yeah.
I'll just sit a little bit closer then.
Yeah, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can, not as loud as the other week, so I don't know.
Maybe just there you go. Okay, a little bit. I'll also move closer to the microphone. We are still learning as we go. This is in Europe. You say you pave the road as you drive. So
you do.
Yeah. So this is what we do. We do not have like a fancy media house or a whole staff of technicians to work with us. We just do this ourselves. So yeah, bear with us. Mark, I something you posted this week on your Wild Family Travel channel was something about Chinese fast trains, and I found that extremely interesting.
That's a good thing.
Was that the last time when you visited Villa?
Yeah.
You went riding with one of these trains.
Yes, we definitely did.
What was? I mean, obviously you can watch the video on Mark and the family's channel, but tell me and the audience, what was it like? I mean, and how fast was it, and all of these things, impressions.
I think it went a top speed of around 330 kilometres at one stage, but basically it sits at looked to be sitting around 305, 310 kilometres most of the journey. We covered about 650 kilometres in a little over just on around 3 hours. There was a couple of stops along the way, and it slows down a bit when it goes into towns, but basically it just chugs along really, really well, the Chinese rail system. One of the things I really did like about it is it's really quiet. Like, you wouldn't even know that you're moving. Unlike when you get in a plane and, there's that hum when you're in a plane. But in Chinese rails fast trains, there's no humming at all. You wouldn't even know that you're actually moving. The rails are as smooth as anything, hardly any bumps at all. So I quite actually like their high speed rail.
They're not like these magnetic rails. That's not what it is.
No, there is a maglev in China, but it's in Shanghai. It's only got a short section of it at the moment, but the maglev goes, I think, 450 kilometers an hour. So that's
crazy.
That would be interesting to ride on for sure. But China's by far the world leader in high speed trains. They've got I think 80% of the world's high-speed network is located in China because it's a vast country in the end, and they need an affordable way for their population to get around. I wouldn't say it's overly affordable. Like, I would say middle class upwards could probably afford it, but you can also have the choice of going on a normal slow train. Not everyone has to go on the high-speed rail. There's normal rail as well, so you can choose to do the extra long trip on the rickety and rackety normal train system, or you can jump on the high speed rail. So for us, we went from Qingdao, China into Beijing, and it was around $70 Australian a ticket. So I'd say that's probably around 35 euros or something like that. 30 might be 40 euros. Something around there anyway, just on a rough conversion. So it wasn't too bad. But the issue is that it's cheaper than flying because in China they don't actually have any, what I would say, established budget airlines such as, EasyJet, or if you're from Australia, Jetstar or something like that. So all the flights I checked were standard. There was about 10 airlines, and the price varied by $5, and the price to fly was closer to $200 than it was to the $70 to catch. So,
well, anyway,
because there was four of us.
But in these sustainable times, it's riding by train is probably better. And in terms of time, I mean, with check-in and security and everything, you're probably there just as fast anyway. With by train, I guess.
The amazing thing about China's train stations is they're about the size of a football stadium or bigger. Any high-speed rail station is huge. And it's actually much like an airport. You go in.
Oh, really?
You got to put your bags through a scanner.
Yeah. So there's security anyway.
Yeah, there's security anyway. And then you go up to a big mezzanine area, a big flat area. And what happens is, much like an airport as well, you actually have boarding gates. So they have like a number of boarding gates. This one we were in had about 28 boarding gates. So what happens is, you look at the board, it gives you a gate, you go line up, and they check your ticket, and then you go down to the platform from there. So so it does it nice and orderly, so there's not too many people all at the one time standing on a platform. So when your train's coming, 20 minutes beforehand, you go to your gate they check your tickets again, and you go down the escalator to your platform, and then you line up at your carriage number, which is on your ticket. They'll have carriage numbers on the platform, and you stand there where your number is, and you wait for the train to arrive, and on you go. All takes under 5 minutes once the train arrives. People are on, and the train is out of there. So really, really high functioning system, the way they do it. And I guess when you got millions of people, you've really got to be, or when you got a billion people, and a lot of them are
you've got to be organized.
Got to be, the system's got to work, and it's got to work really, really well. And it seemingly does in China. A lot of things work really well in China like that. So I quite enjoyed the rail. I've done a bit of high speed rail in China when we were there previously. In 2019, we used high speed rail as well in China, and very, very, very efficient.
I'm looking forward to try this eventually. I mean, because in Europe, well, we have what they call high-speed trains, but it's not like, it's not like that. I think in France they're actually pretty far in terms of high speed, and they go to about 300 kilometers an hour on some stretches. But and here in Germany, I think the max is 250. From
I've been
Munich.
On the Eurostar.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've been on when I went on the Eurostar. I'm pretty sure, which was obviously Paris to London. I think it got up.
Yeah,
I think that line gets up to about 300k.
Yeah, it does.
That was definitely fast. But there's a lot of TGV. The TGV, that's what it's called in France.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, apparently it gets up to 350 as well.
Yeah,
and they got the TGV trains hold some of the world's records for some of the fastest trains ever. If you look on YouTube, I think they did a speed test at about 450 kilometers an hour one day, heading down to Avignon, in the bottom of France from Paris there. So I quite like. I watch a lot of transport videos. It's quite interesting, and people seem to resonate with them. Like, I make a lot of different content for our YouTube channels, but people love videos about airports, planes, trains, train stations.
Yeah, we could probably recommend a couple, because I'm watching these as well. There's one guy on YouTube. I'm following several actually. Some that are always checking into 5-star hotels around the world. Some are checking into cruise ships and luxury airline tickets. They try Qantas first class or Qatar Airways or whatever. I mean, they try the luxury, the best tickets they can possibly get on the plane and stuff like that. And it's always crazy expensive, but I always sit back and say, it's not worth the money, but well, to some it is, obviously, but and I don't know how they I don't know how they can afford to make these videos. Well, obviously they have many subscribers, but still, I don't think you make that much money on YouTube. But anyways,
I don't know. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you in a few months.
Sometime, yeah.
I've got one YouTube channel that's about to hit monetization stage in the next month, so hopefully there'll be some money starting to come in from YouTube.
Oh yeah,
but I've got no idea. How much they make. I can only assume that you make money through how percentage of ads that are watched. Because if you watch YouTube and you watch a long video, the first ad is generally 5 seconds, and then as you watch further, the next one might be 30 seconds, and then another one could anywhere be up to a minute. So I assume the further you get into the videos and the more ads that are played, the more money you make.
Yeah, and the more tedious it gets for the viewer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see.
I have, we have for the past 2 years, because that was exactly what happened here in the household. I was getting so annoyed with the ads. So I for the past 2 years, we've had a YouTube Premium family package. So whatever profile is watching here, we don't see the ads. They do have the in video, like channel sponsors. So if they're talking about something, there are many. Usually,
and all of a sudden they go.
Usually, the same type of video have the same type of sponsors for some reason. So we see those, and if possible, I just scroll through them because it's just in Europe we have from way back when Flow TV was still the only thing we had. We did have commercials, but they were in blocks, usually before a movie would start or before the news would start. They would never interfere with a running program. It's just not a thing we're used to here.
Yeah. I noticed that Amazon Prime is doing that in Australia now. I don't know.
Yeah, they are here as well.
About there at the start of the show, you get a 30-second ad block these days, or maybe a minute, where that's only something they've introduced sometime this year. I don't watch much on Prime because sometimes it's fairly average, but but I use it obviously for the free postage and the other benefits you get with Amazon. So, but which is good. I think Netflix is still ad-free at this stage anyway.
Yeah, depending on which subscription tier you're on.
I've got too many.
I've seen that on Amazon. We're paying for Amazon Prime, and the product is getting worse and worse. And we generate, because for the past 20, 30 years, since not only the state-financed channels were when that was the only thing, we didn't really see these commercials. The commercial TV stations, obviously, they have advertising blocks, and but we never watch these at home here because we all just hate being interrupted in watching whatever we're watching. It's just annoying, so we avoid these. And I remember back when you could videotape things, or when you would videotape things, I would do that. I wouldn't see it live. I would tape it so that I could scroll past the commercials because it's just annoying, It ruins the flow of a good movie, a good story.
I hear.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, that was a bit of a side step there.
Yes.
But 35 euros to go from one place in China to 350 kilometers away. I think that's
650 kilometers. Yeah.
It was 650 kilometers.
Yeah. Well, it took 3 hours. So 650 kilometers.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? That's actually 35 euros. That actually, for European, it's a good deal.
Yeah.
It is a good deal.
Even in Australia, it's a pretty good deal as well.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah. So most Chinese would be able to afford that. Obviously, there's a lower class in every society that's probably too much for some people. But hey, there's always the option of a bus or the slow train. I don't actually mind.
What would the slow train take? I mean, just out of curiosity,
it was around 12 hours. So,
yeah.
Had multiple stops, so it was probably stopping every town along the line. No, whereas this train that we went on, I think it stopped maybe 3 times in 650 kilometres. So because they have a dedicated high-speed line, it would only stop at major cities along the way, and there was only a couple in between Qingdao and Beijing. Had to stop in Jinan, which was the capital of Shandong province, which is where Qingdao is, and then I think it stopped in one other major city just shy of Beijing. So it was quite good, very good, and very. Well, I'll tell you a funny thing about it. Okay, so China Rail. So what you can do, there's an app. Okay, and with this app, you can order, if you order quick enough, if you know you're coming up to a station, you can get on this app and you can order KFC or McDonald's, and they will bring it to the platform for you, and then a stewardess from the train will go out and pick it up off the Uber driver and bring it back onto the train for you.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Yes, that is very cool. Like, well, because I was sitting there and going, what are these people doing? Like, they're all getting shot. We're getting KFC delivered. Like, there's all these drivers and all these bags of KFC sitting on this station platform. Yeah, and the stewardesses from the train were going out to collect them and bringing them around to people in their seats. So, yeah, they were able to order it through the Chinese Rail app off KFC or McDonald's or anyone that's, a part of this app. And if you ordered it by a certain time, it'd be at the station waiting for you to eat, which I thought was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of eating whilst traveling, we used to bring our own food, on board a train, or you can't do it on a flight, but on a train. And also when we go by car, we would prepare like a bag of food and drinks and all.
Yeah.
We kind of stopped that because we realized that the minute we sat in the car or the train, it became sort of a bad habit to just start eating right away. And we found ourselves eating all the way. It was just, no, we can't. We had chips and biscuits and, sandwiches. And we were just, and then, for instance, when going by car from Munich to my mom in Denmark, it's like a 13, 14-hour drive. And after like 2 hours, we had eaten everything and we were just like full and it was just a bad habit. So we stopped that. How do you sort of deal with that?
We had some food that we took on the train only because we'd bought some food in China that we were taking with us anyway. So that was okay. But generally on a plane, we don't take much. I might take a bag of lollies, or something like that each, and that's about it. And then just wait to be fed, because you're right. If you sit there and you're bored, you tend to eat if you're bored. So, and you don't need to eat because you're not actually burning off any calories while you sit around,
it was really
doing nothing.
Yeah.
Are you?
No. It was literally, we would start the car here in our street, and by the end of the street, by the intersection, it was I could eat a sandwich now. Literally 1 minute after we left home, it was just, oh, come on.
I hear. I mean, there's enough services along the road to stop at. But they're expensive, aren't they? So if you can. I guess if you can control yourself, it's cheaper to take some food from home.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
It is.
And especially if you've got to eat at the airport. So like we've got an early flight. Well, not early, but it'll be early enough for us next month when we fly to China. I think our flight's at 10:30, so we'll probably be at the airport at 7:30 because that's just something I do. I've got to be there 3 hours early. That's why I like it when I go on international flights.
That's what you call well prepared. That's
So I will take some yogurt and stuff like that because we're staying in Melbourne in a hotel the night before, and I'll eat that. We'll have some breakfast at the hotel and then go to the airport, because if I go to the airport and I have to buy us all breakfast, it'll cost 60 or 70 Australian dollars just for, a cup of coffee and a sandwich or something like that.
And it's not even good food. It's just, factory food. Yeah.
Most definitely. Definitely. So speaking of airlines, I got a message from our airline today, and I dread it when I see this email pop up and it says there has been a change of schedule to your flight.
Yeah.
And I go,
one of those.
Oh, here we go. Because this happened to us in September when we went to China. We got a change of schedule and actually change the day, whole day, not just.
It's not only airlines who do that.
Hours.
Even the Deutsche Bahn, they do this. They do this all the time as well. So when you get these changes in your booking mails, it's just. So what did they say, Mark?
Actually, they were changing our scheduled landing time, and it was going to be 30 minutes earlier. So I was like, that is very good. I must be going to fly the plane a little bit faster. Might be a tailwind on that day. I really don't know. But they could have made it, 2 hours quicker. That would have been nicer. Instead of being 11 hours, 9 hours. 9 hours would have been nicer, but hey.
Yeah.
Any quicker is much better. So yeah. So I find that a little bit comical. I mean, there's obviously a law that they have to send it out and you have to accept it. But I'm pretty sure anyone who's seen their flight was going to take off at the same time and land earlier than what they forecast would be more than happy to accept the change in schedule.
Yeah. It's as you say, it's probably some law saying that
that's what
that you need to do this. Yeah.
One good thing though, I did notice about this flight we're going on. We're flying with an airline called Beijing Capital Airlines. I've never really heard much about them before, but they're one of the 10 or so airlines that fly to Australia, and they fly an Airbus A330, which is a 242 configuration, which I really like. It's not often you find an airline anymore that has the two seats on the side. They're normally 3 and 3 everywhere these days. Yeah. So I'll be looking forward to trying to get a window seat in one of them. So
what are you? You're a window seat. I'm more of an aisle seat.
I'm not. I'm an aisle, but Rebecca's a window. So okay. So it works well for us. My wife loves the window because she'll sleep even if it's during the day. She puts her head against the window and goes to sleep. But I'm a little bit fidgety and I like to stretch my legs out and I like to get up and things like that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If I'm tucked in, then I'm annoying someone if I have to get up all the time. So
yeah, that's
definitely aisle for me. I couldn't even count on. I could count on one hand the amount of times I reckon I've sat on a window, and I've probably flown 100+ times internationally. But yeah, my wife sits on the window definitely. There's no option there. That's what she wants, and as we all know, happy wife is a happy life.
Yeah. Well, goes without saying.
It does.
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
Yeah. So we still have a lot to talk about. We still have many topics that we want to dive into. But do you think one of them is an overall topic is what keeps people from traveling? Do you think that well, I'm trying to find a segue into to this here, but because one of the things, these long haul flights where you are not, well, if you want to choose your seating, then they will charge you extra money for that. So if you just want to go with the flow and sit wherever you're seated, you might very well end with something in the middle where you can't get up and stretch your legs, or you can't look out the window or stuff like that. Do you think, because this is something that sort of takes my joy of traveling a little bit away when the airlines are kind of treating the passengers like cattle, in mass transportation terms. I think I don't know. It's not really comfortable, flying anymore. And I think you thought already 5 years ago it couldn't be worse, but still it gets worse. I mean, it's just they wanna shovel more and more people into these planes, obviously to make more money. That's the reason. But do you think that keeps people in general away from traveling, or is this just you and I as experienced travelers? We're just saying, let's try to avoid.
I would say it's possible, because if they've had a bad experience or they know someone who's had a bad experience, well, then that can certainly flow over to their attitude about flying. But 10 years ago, there was no such thing as booking a seat. Like, you just rolled up to the airport and you got allocated a seat. So you get there, you try and get there early so you could, get a good seat if that's if that was a real concern to you. And like I said, if you were flying with kids, most of the time they would put you with them, but now obviously you can't guarantee that now because they want you to pay for the seats. But planes have definitely got smaller and definitely more cramped. Like I said, I have a real preference for two aisle
242
compared to the one aisle. Or even 333, but it's not as good. But I just don't like the ones that have only got single aisle down the middle. Like, they're really, really cramped. Especially if you're flying long haul, like, you really want a wide body compared to a narrow body plane, I think, because the narrow body with just the one aisle, because you got to fight. It's always stewardesses and drink carts, and you got to fight past them, and and the aisle's not that wide as it is, and I'm probably on the bigger side, so for me it's even harder again. So if you've got the two aisles, it tends to make it a little bit easier, and that provides a little bit more extra room up at the back of the plane near the toilets too, so you can sort of stretch and stand there for a little bit, and do some stretches and some toe stretches, and swing your arms around a little bit, or just to loosen up after you've been sitting down for a long time. So But yeah, I think, look, if you're, every time I book a flight, I go, oh, I hate flying. I don't want to go on another plane. But you get on it and you go, yeah, okay, that sucked. And you get off the other side, and then you get off and you go, wasn't really that bad, was it? Like, I'm sure I'll do it again. and I certainly do obviously continue to, because, in Australia, there's no option. We've just got to fly everywhere if we want to fly out of the country. So
yeah,
some airlines are better than others, as we all know, but most of us are driven by price, and I'm no different than that. So and you get what you pay for sometimes. If I'm sure if you booked, good quality airlines like Qatar and Singapore and things like that all the time, you'd probably have a far better experience. But I'd prefer to spend my money on the ground than in the air.
Yeah, I find that it's I've never had fear of flights ever. I was never nervous about going up in the air. Some people have that, and that's a legit concern. I find what annoys me the most is really all the stress around it. It's really not, and the pricing, the booking, the rigid systems that they have at the airports and the airlines. It's not actually the flying itself, because that doesn't bother me at all. No. So, yeah.
Well, for a lot of people, travel is outside of your comfort zone, because there's a lot to be said for knowing what you're doing every day, and and having a set routine where you get up at 7:00 and have your coffee and have your toast, and then at 9:00 you go to work, and then you come home at 5:00 and you have dinner and you watch TV and you go to bed, and everyone's nice and happy and comfortable with that routine, because that's what they know. So travel can be a scary prospect for people, and that's another reason why people maybe don't travel, because you don't know what it's like where you're going, and that's a substantial fear for some people, because I know a lot of people from where I live who've never been overseas and have no desire to go overseas. They're like, I'm happy here, because what happens if my mum used to always say, why would you go over there? It's so dangerous. Something could happen to you. And I'd say, something could happen to me here in Australia or in Melbourne or anywhere.
Absolutely. You got all these poisonous animals.
Yeah, in Europe or Asia, everywhere's just as dangerous as everywhere else. And that's the sort of maybe ignorance, or just the fact that you, as a general, feel safer in your own country. The thought is that you're safer in your own country than you are in another country, and that's not really true. But these days, you can do things to mitigate that. Like, you can get on Google Street View and you can have a look where your hotel is, and see what's
familiarize yourself.
Your hotel, and
it's actually actually a good advice. If because I can relate to what you're saying. There are people who are not comfortable with uncertainty, and if it helps you to go into, like you say, Mark, Google Street View and see the front of your hotel, or maybe even the nearby beach or park or whatever, so you can, just get comfortable with that and familiarize yourself with it. That's a good advice, actually.
Oh, that's
really
it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for being just to have some sort of familiarity about where you're going, even if you've never been there. Like, if you've had a look at the street you're staying on, even on your taxi on your way up to your hotel, you can go, okay, I remember seeing that on Street View, so this must be just around the corner, and that must be just over here. And this neighbourhood looks as good as what I thought it would be on Google Maps. YouTube's another good one. Sometimes if you're staying at a half decent hotel, someone will definitely have a review on that hotel.
Oh yeah,
and things like that. So that's just a byproduct of technology these days, I guess. When I first started traveling, probably 20 years ago or 25 years ago, there wouldn't certainly not have been any of that. I remember the very first time I used Google Street View was when we went on a holiday in 2013, and we went to Helsinki. I looked it all up. I knew where the street was. I knew where the supermarket was around it. I knew where there was a coffee shop. I knew where a park was, because we had kids, all that sort of thing. So when we arrived, it was really good. And it was the first overseas trip we'd taken with our kids that were of age where, they needed not needed, but they were, they were walking age and able to get around a bit. When they're in a pram, it was probably a bit easier. We could just wander around. But so it was really comforting for me to know where everything was in relationship to where we were staying.
It's a good thing when traveling with kids, because we were away for a long time with our then 3-year-old son, and Alex would always research where there was a park or a playground or stuff like that, so we knew where we could go, because one thing about traveling as a family, sometimes you need to make room for just hanging around and let the kids play and be kids, So we would plan that, and Google is your friend in that regard.
Definitely,
yeah.
Look, there's nothing worse than over planning, I guess, when you've got kids, because that can only lead to disappointment.
Yeah.
I think like disappointment. There's no use planning full days when you've got kids and saying, okay, I want to go and do this in the morning, I want to go do that in the afternoon. And if you've got that sort of plan going on for say a week or more, you're certainly not going to be able to do all that. I wouldn't think, not in a happy frame of mind anyway. No. So generally we used to just plan something in the morning, and that would be concrete, and we would go and do that. And then depending on how the kids were going in the afternoon, we'd either just go to a park or, go back to the apartment or whatever. But if they were feeling fine, well, then we would certainly go and do something in the afternoon. So you really need that level of flexibility.
Absolutely.
When you're traveling with kids, so you don't overplan, or you're going to get disappointed and they're going to get angry. So
exactly. We had
one thing planned today.
We did it similar to that, what you're saying. I specifically remember a week we had in Bangkok, and it was the heat was exhausting, and Anton was really struggling one day with the heat. So we did something in the morning, and then we went back to the hotel, air conditioned and with a pool. And then in the afternoon, we actually went to a shopping mall nearby, which was also air conditioned, but they had an indoor playground. so that was just, we hadn't planned for that, but it was just like, let's do something where he can feel comfortable. He was really struggling with the heat that day, and so we just we had that flexibility, and it's also for the parents. It's not really you're not comfortable when your kid is not comfortable. It's just it's,
not at all.
You just want to make it easy for everybody. So flexibility is really a key. Yeah.
The heat makes things really difficult no matter where you are, especially in Asia, especially in Thailand or Vietnam or places like that, because Asia's well renowned for not just its heat, but its humidity.
Yeah.
As well.
Humidity
you're sweating all the time.
Yeah, you are.
As well, which makes it worse. So So like air conditioning at a hotel is a non-negotiable for me, no matter where I'm going or what season it is. Actually, it's the first thing I look at. Is there an air conditioner in the hotel? Because I guess not so much in winter, but it can still get hot in rooms where they have heating. And I prefer to go to sleep in a cool room than a hot room. So I tend
me
to
too.
sleep better. So air conditioning is pretty much my one non-negotiable when I book a hotel.
One of the things in modern architecture is that if you go to Scandinavia, modern architecture dictates large windows. So all the hotel rooms have these huge windows with panoramic views, and it's all good. The problem with that is when the sun is shining all day long, it heats up that room, and in Scandinavia, they don't have shutters or something to isolate for the sun. So even in Scandinavia, where people think, it's not really a hot region. The hotel rooms can certainly get hot because they capture the sun in all these rooms.
And the problem is with a lot of hotel rooms, they have these big windows, but the windows don't open. Like there's no no option to open a window. It's just, So it's not really a window; it's just a wall of glass, really, because
that's what it is.
A window in retrospect opens, doesn't it, to allow you to to cool the place or things like that. And
there might be like a small, narrow something
chain,
you can open.
Little chain opening.
Yeah,
I don't know why that is. I don't know why it's an insurance thing or whether people have thrown themselves out of windows.
Yeah, they want to make sure people don't jump. In Russia, people fall out of the high buildings all the time, particularly if they don't agree with Putin, then they just, there's a tendency to drop out of tall buildings. But no, we don't want
someone drop them out of a tall building.
Yeah.
Maybe someone drops them out of a tall building.
I think so, yeah. Anyways, I found it sad. Yeah, I found it funny that your mom said, why do you want to go overseas? It's dangerous. But we have a saying in here in Europe that going to the moon is about the same has about the same level of danger as going to Australia, because everything on the moon will try to kill you. In Australia, it's pretty much the same with all the poisonous animals, but you have a different approach to that in Australia, because you're from even toddlers, they learn, shake your shoe before you step into it, and don't walk into the tall grass and all these things. So it's just funny, these cultural differences we have in terms of how we see things, right?
It is like from all the it's no wonder, because I've watched all of these shows, like with Australia's Deadliest Animals that they show overseas. And, I reckon I've maybe seen a dozen snakes in my life. I've probably seen 2 up close. And they were when I was a kid, and we had a house where I lived with my parents, and it was on the edge of town at that stage. So there was grass paddocks around it. But my dad would just walk out the back with a shovel and chop the thing in half, just straight over and chop its head off with the shovel. But other than that, approach, you very rarely see. Other than that, you very rarely see snakes. I've seen a few, that slither across the road, but none is like they show on TV, where they're sitting in your toilet and and out on your back veranda and things like that. They sort of play it up.
They play it up a bit. So what do you have in Victoria? You have redbacks, right? That's
spiders.
Yeah, spiders, redbacks.
Snakes. Yeah, redback spiders, red belly black snakes. They're another snake I think Australia has like 19 out of the top 20 poisonous snakes in the world or something like that. I was reading the other day, like tiger snakes, things like that. But like I said, you don't really see them, and it's not they're not going to attack you unless you're doing something to them. So it's not as if a snake just wants to come and bite you.
But if you do gardening, you do wear gloves, don't you? You because of the spiders, you don't want to.
No.
We don't use that new modern nonsense.
Not at all. No, I don't. No, well, I don't garden often, but Rebecca gardens, but she doesn't. I don't know many people that garden. Like if I had a pile of wood, I'd probably wear some gloves, only to protect my hands from splinters, but they could be probably not snakes, but could be spiders living in there. But we have spiders in the house fairly regularly. I generally don't kill them. I get them on the end of a broom and let them go, because we've got a really famous one called a huntsman, and he's a fairly big spider, but he doesn't bite you. He's just in your house to catch bugs and flies and things like that. So I always put him on the end of a broom, and I take him outside and let him go, because he's not hurting anyone. So once again, he's not going to just jump off the roof and jump on you and bite you like he's possibly made out in places. So, and even the redback, you won't really find one of them inside. They're likely to live out the backyard, like I said, in the wood pile or under a bit of tin. If you've got some, bits and pieces hanging around your backyard, they might be under a pot, things like that. But they're not living in your bedroom or anything like that.
No,
they all live outside. So, yeah.
No, the huntsman is it looks uncomfortable to me, because I'm not used to that size of spider here in Europe. We don't have that. But yeah, I know it's not dangerous, and it's very common in any household. It's just, but they can get up to like toilet size. I've seen that they can get really big.
I've never seen one that big, but I have seen pictures of them. I don't know whether that's real or not, or whether someone's using a bit of Photoshop magic to blow them up. Like, you know, you might. I'm just trying to think of what would be a good shape. You know, like maybe I've seen ones that are probably as round as, say, a pie, like a small meat pie, like we have in Australia. I'm sorry, like maybe a muffin size, like. Yeah. But that wouldn't be his body. That would be his legs stretched out, like his body still only.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I've never seen one I would think any bigger than what would be the size of like a breakfast muffin or an English muffin or McDonald's muffin, you know, that you'd get on an egg and bacon McMuffin or a sausage muffin or something like that. So they could possibly be up to that size, but that would be legs stretched out. That wouldn't be the body. So
and if you go to Sydney, you can have the Sydney funnel web. They also
the funnel web,
it's quite dangerous, actually. I saw. Again, if you dive into all these YouTube videos, you're just gonna get yourself some anxiety there. It's just because they were. I don't know. Somehow it had crawled into the house and hidden under the TV, and it was just they had to get a professional to come and get it out. And but maybe it was even staged for entertainment. I don't know.
They could, but the funnel web obviously is really poisonous. He's not in my part of the world. I don't know whether it's too cold in Victoria for him.
Yeah.
Or not, but they're mainly over there. But I seen a telly show not long ago that said that there was a population of redback spiders in Japan that had stowed away on a like in a container, and they were finding them throughout Tokyo. So I don't know. I don't know how many there was or whether that's is still happening. But they were finding some redback spiders in Tokyo, and I reckon they come from a shipping container where some had stowed away. So that's quite interesting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
not for the Japanese, maybe.
Not for the no. I found comfort in the fact that because when we were leaving Australia, I was kind of relieved that because we didn't see anything either. It was just really nothing, and we spent 3 months there. So when we went to New Zealand afterwards, I was Googling what dangerous animals would you find in New Zealand. Absolutely nothing. You would they don't. It's the same thing as in Denmark.
They don't have a snake, I don't think, do they?
No, they don't.
I'm pretty sure they don't have snakes in New Zealand. I'm sure I read that when I was going there last year too. So, but so don't be afraid of Australia. No. Don't worry about the spiders and the snakes because you are very, very, very unlikely to see one unless you go to the zoo and see one.
Yeah, or specifically look for them in nature. I mean, we went on a crocodile safari sort of into a creek and all, and but that was a guided tour, and the guides knew what they're doing, and so apart from that, nothing. Really nothing.
That would have been in Queensland.
Yeah, it was up in Queensland. Yeah. But I would say this: you should respect the signs on the beach saying you shouldn't swim here because crocodiles have recently been seen and stuff like that. So don't ignore those.
Most definitely, beach safety is really important for tourists, I guess, that come to Australia because a lot of countries have beaches that are more like lakes, I guess, that don't really have waves, and the amount of foreigners that come to Australia and drown like in the ocean, especially once they go to Sydney and think they can just go and run into the water in Bondi and places like that and actually die because they're not used to them sort of surf conditions and rips and undercurrents and things like that is important to remember for any person that comes to Australia is to swim between the flags, as we call it. Like lifesavers will be on duty and they'll have some red flags out and you should swim between them because then you'll always be monitored by Lifesaving Australia. And then if you need help, you'll get help. But ocean in Australia, I don't worry about it. Like I'll swim in the ocean happily, but I grew up swimming in the ocean like most Australians did. So we sort of have a sense of what it's like from a young age. But for people who have never swum in oceans that have got waves and currents and things like that, it can be quite a.
That's actually
the
what
last thing you want.
Yeah, that's probably the most dangerous thing is, currents, undercurrents, and you being surprised by a current of some kind is actually not the animals, because what in Victoria is mostly sharks. You don't have saltwater crocodiles.
No, but then again, you never really hear anyone getting eaten by a shark in Victoria either. It's happens in Western Australia. Probably Western Australia is the hotspot for great white sharks. It's quite bizarre because I live near a beach. Well, when I say near, probably 50 kilometres away. And this stretch of beach is called the 90 Mile Beach.
Yeah.
And it's renowned for catching sharks at this place called Sea Spray in Golden Beach, which is along the coast each year. They catch a lot of sharks down there. Not great whites, but yet I've never ever heard of anyone getting attacked by a shark there. So they're generally what they call a gummy shark, which they don't really have much teeth, or a bronze whaler, but they get ones that up to 10 to 12 foot, like these sharks.
Oh, okay, that's fairly.
They don't actually, big sharks, but I've never actually heard of anyone in the 50 years I've lived in this area actually being attacked by a shark along this stretch of coast that's famous for fishing for sharks. So yeah, it's just one of them things, and it's like everything, they're the dominant species in that water. So if we go in there, it is what it is, isn't it? It's that's just it's an element of risk, and if you want to take that risk, that's the way it is. But we have to make all precautions you can.
I think the takeaway advice here is really just if you go to the beach, you are in the elements of nature, right? And that's just you need to take care. And as you say, Mark, there are lifeguards on duty. We have the same in along the North Sea coast in Denmark, or all beaches in Denmark, really. During the summertime, there are usually lifeguards on duty. And in Denmark, really, the only danger is currents and I wouldn't say big waves. Some larger waves can pull you away from the coast and further out into the ocean, and that's where it gets dangerous. That's
when the trouble happens.
Yeah. Because eventually you will get cold and you will get tired, and cramps will happen, and all these things, and that's really the big danger. Usually. Obviously, accidents happen, but usually it's mostly tourists here as well. Germans, in fact, going to Denmark and not really understanding the advice and not being used to swimming in the ocean, because the Germans, well, they're more like mountain people, so it's tourists not. Being used to swimming in the ocean, they should really take advice.
People who think they can swim. They go, okay, well, I can swim, so I'll be right. But
but that's not enough.
Get caught in a rip and get dragged 200 meters offshore, and then have to doggy paddle for 2 hours. Like, sooner or later, you're going to get tired, and that's when you get in strife.
That's true. Yeah. So. Last week, did you get your new car, or is it still pending?
I haven't got it yet. It's still pending.
Okay.
Pending arrival at this stage. So they've still only got $500 off me at this stage. So I keep waiting for the phone call. I assume I'll get a phone call. I better anyway. And then
have they given you an estimated delivery time?
He said up to 3 weeks. That was his thoughts when I ordered it. It was in a holding yard in Melbourne, but I guess they only they'd have to put it on a truck, so they probably wait until they've got an order possibly.
Probably,
down this way to load a few of them up, and then it had to go into the garage there and get the towing kit put on the back so I can tow my trailer out to the rubbish dump or camping or anywhere I choose, things like that. So, or maybe even tow a caravan that I've got sitting in the backyard that I bought 2 years ago and I've never actually taken out of my backyard at this stage. So that would be something different as well.
You're from an area. You're from an area where a tow bar is important. So am I. I'm, in rural Denmark. You would never even think of buying a car without being able to pull a trailer after you. I mean, that is
That's it.
Standard equipment. but living in a big city like Copenhagen, it's just, or even here in Munich, it's just, why would you need that? And the thing is, if you're not aware, if you're like a city person driving into the countryside and you want to like park or turn around, you can actually hit that tow bar on, because you're not aware of that hook. Standing out from behind the car. I've actually seen people, getting bumps and
hitting their shins and kneecapping themselves on the way.
Yeah, exactly.
On the way past.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
It's a dangerous tool because it's a massive iron. It's just it hurts and it can scratch your car and exactly. So, Mark, have you anything else we want to say this week?
No, I haven't got much else. I've been up to. Got a couple of new tattoos today, but other than that, that's. That's about all I've been doing.
New tattoos, okay, yeah. Well, are you into? Are you getting some Chinese tattoos? Maybe when you go there.
I did get a tattoo with some Chinese writing on it today, so that was one I added to the collection. I've probably got now maybe a dozen.
Okay.
A dozen small tattoos, and they all represent travel. So,
cool.
I've got some.
Yeah, I can see a passport stamp there, and
yeah. So they all represent places and things I've been. I can't see that one around there, but that's
there you go. Yeah.
So they all represent things and places I've been to and things I've done either by myself or with my family and things like that. So I add to the collection every now and again when I can afford it.
Yeah.
Well, not when I can afford it. Just when I can justify it is probably a better idea. It costs about $130 Australian an hour to go and get a tattoo. So I don't know what's that, 60, probably 50 euro, 60 euro for an hour to get some ink done. So I don't know whether that's cheap or dear, but I only get smaller ones, so I can get 2 or 3 done at a time. So today I got the city that Willow lives in. I got that written in Chinese on my arm. Okay. So that was one. I got a tram. A little tram, because Melbourne is famous for trams, and so is Lisbon. I've been to Lisbon 3 or 4 times as well.
Yes, yeah.
And on the other arm, I got a little cityscape of Amsterdam it's got a windmill and a couple of them nice little buildings that they have. So I just continue. I've got a little one of Prague here, and I've got a bowl of noodles getting eaten, which was from Asia. And
also nice.
A wine glass and some cheese, which represents when we stayed in France for a month. So I'm not really into this willy-nilly going to get skulls and, Indians and things like that, because they look cool. I want my tattoos to actually mean something or be part of a memory that I've had with my kids and my wife and on our travels. So, yeah.
That's cool.
So that's what.
So in about 40 years' time, you should be completely covered.
Well, I should be, but I might run out of room. I'm not really a big fan of them on my legs, so I won't get any on my legs. On my arms are fine. But then you go, well, once you get past the edge of your sleeve and you can't actually see them, is it really worth getting any more done? Like that's the sort of thing. And I don't sort of wander around bare-chested or anything like that in summer here, because the sun's really hot and people tend to get skin cancers and things like that. So there's not really, besides the sleeves on my arms, there's not really anywhere else I'll get one. So so once they're filled up, that will that'll be it for the tattoos. So but I'm only really new to this. I only sort of started probably 2 years ago. Actually, I've got a tattoo on my arm that I got when I was a teenager, when I was about 19, and it's a tattoo of a ghost. And me and a heap of guys, they're like, "Oh, I'll get this same tattoo," So crazily enough, I did that when I was about 19, and it took me till I was about 49 to get my next tattoo. So might have been a mid-age crisis that I've started getting tattoos, but hey, I like it. So so I'll continue. I'll get some more in the next 6 months or so. I might even get something from Bangkok, since we're going to Bangkok. I'll have a look for a nice temple or something, and I'll get a small tattoo of a temple as well. So
or a reclining Buddha or something.
Yeah, something like that. That would be cool as well. So I've got like I said, I've got a tram from Melbourne, and I've got a tuk-tuk, and a few different few different bits and pieces. A snorkeling mask because we went snorkeling with the kids in Bali and we all really enjoyed it. It was a really fun experience. So yeah, so as long as they mean something to me and they prompt a good memory of something we've done, then I'm happy to wear them.
Yeah, I don't have tattoos. I guess I'm too chicken to get them. I'm afraid I will regret it. I'm not really afraid of the. I'm not really afraid of the pain because people say there is no pain, but obviously there will be if you're really into like delicate skin. But I don't have. But we have Alex and I, my wife and I, we have discussed maybe we should both have like a small A because Anton, our son, me, Anders, and Alex. Yeah. So we're all A's. Yeah. So even it could mean anything, you know. So it's just a small A somewhere, you know, on the wrist or something. But
most definitely.
Yeah, but we're still too chicken to do it.
Well, you're right. They're there forever. So you know, if you don't like them, it's not really much you can do once they're there. But I guess if it's only an A, you can sort of get it on your on the inside of your finger or anything.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, where no one can really see it, and even you won't see it after a while.
Exactly, and I might consider a music note or something like that because I'm into music.
Yeah, something like that too. That means something to you because you're very passionate about your music. So
exactly.
So I think as long as it means something to you, it's all right. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't just, you know, my boss, he's got Indians and bloody skulls and all sorts of things, and I'm like, why? He's like, I thought they looked good in the shop. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not for me, mate.
Exactly.
I want one to when I look at it, when I look at my arm, I go, you know, it's always prompting a memory of something that I've done. So just another way I'm over the top about travel.
Yeah, there are cultures where, you know, tattoos are. I recently saw something happening in the New Zealand Parliament, and you know, there are serious politicians with tattoo the Maori culture.
Yeah,
right?
The girls they get face tattoos and everything.
Yeah. When you're not used to that, it's just whoa. That looks rather dramatic to me. But you know, it's really just a matter of culture. What are you used to? So obviously, there's no right or wrong here. It's just, you know, it's different, and it's just I didn't expect that. You know.
Well, I don't think there's the you know, like when I was a kid, people who had tattoos were generally, you know, classed as, you know, badasses or bikers or, you know, gang members or
sailors.
Things like that. I think, I think that sort of stigma's, you know, sort of disappeared a bit now with people who have tattoos because they're fairly mainstream now. Lots of people have got tattoos, whereas once upon a time, you know, there was not a lot around. And and I remember when I was a kid, if we seen someone with tattoos, you'd be like, oh, you know, what are they into, you know?
Yeah, he's a tough guy, yeah.
Or don't get tattoos, you know, things like that. It's again, mom, be scared.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so that's my week. Yeah. What else going on?
Exactly. Well, you've been listening to Southern Summers and Northern Winters, our fourth podcast episode here. Do find us on the Facebook. I saw scammers have discovered us, Mark, on Facebook.
Oh yeah, did you see their messages? yeah. I see them too.
I was going to tell you to just ignore these and delete the messages.
Because go away scammers.
Yeah, it's just I have a couple of other Facebook sites, and the more you interact with them, the more annoying they get because they know that someone is there behind the. But we are.
Don't send me an email pretending you're from Facebook when it's at a Hotmail address. Like
exactly, stuff like that.
It's so silly to think that anyone's going to fall for that sort of thing. But yes, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are on YouTube now. So you'll be able to find us on all of them. And I actually bought a domain for our name, so I'm going to build a website as well in the next.
Ooh, that's cool. That's going to be cool.
So when I get around it, so we'll be certainly covered on all platforms. So definitely look us up. I'm sure Anders will put a link to all these in the show notes for you.
We do. Yeah.
Any questions you got too would be great. Drop by, ask some questions so we can address them in the podcast. We always looking for new and interesting things to talk about, especially from readers. listeners,
exactly.
Actually,
yeah.
We're not. Well, you could be readers and listeners, depending on and watchers, depending on what channel you're on.
Exactly. and we are. I think that, Mark, that's probably. Let's invite the listeners into like an open editorial meeting here. We could take advantage of the different seasons, because you're on the southern hemisphere. I'm on the northern hemisphere. For instance, the difference in Christmas. Christmas is coming up. We're now mid-November. Definitely. And we already discussed Advent and all the traditions here, but yep. It's very different, and people traveling across the hemispheres, and so they're going to be in for a cultural difference there.
I will be in China for your European Christmas on the 24th, and I'll still be there for an Australian Christmas on the 25th.
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting to see what China's like. I believe it's not a big country for Christmas. I think it's more a shopping season. It's an excuse. So, but I will be able to gauge that when I hit the ground on the 18th of December to see if there's lots of Christmas decorations and Christmas stuff happening, or whether it's just a shopping sales season and
exactly
Christmas as an excuse to do this. So yeah. So
how does the internet and Zoom work in China? Are there any restrictions? Do you know that? Because we could actually make a podcast from China.
Yeah. Well, we'll try that. If I've got a VPN, it should be fine. So I don't even know if Zoom's banned. So I could ask Willow that, but like I know Google and that is, and I had to have VPN last time to get around it. But I'll have VPN again this time. We might have to do a quick test run one night when I land and see if I can get Zoom working on my phone along with or DJI speaker, and if that works, well then we can certainly be good to record an episode from China, and hopefully I can get my daughter on as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chat about what things are like in China. So
yeah,
we'll definitely plan that, and then we can definitely do one the week after when I'm in Bangkok too.
Possibly. Yeah,
so that
certainly.
Yeah, taking it to the road.
Yeah, exactly. like a in-field reporter.
Yeah, Southern's Northern Winters hits the road.
Yeah, exactly.
In Asia.
Well, thank you very much for listening. We do enjoy this, and we do encourage you to spread the word. If you like what you hear and see. And until next time, take care, safe travels, and bye-bye for now.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.